I just want to comment also that Willem has been in an extremely bad physical state while I've known him. If he, because of these damages, if he goes on a normal plane now, I don't think he would survive it. It's that severe. So that is why when after 10 years he got on a Dreamliner, that was a major step forward, because he hasn't been able to get on a plane, these planes that he was his massive passion in life for all of these years, because it's that bad. But what I would like to, maybe after your questions, Richard, but if you wouldn't mind, then tell us about, Willem, when you started flying Dutch military into the areas of the Balkan War, and what you discovered when you were doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, it was in the beginning of the 90s. We were flying. I was flying at a Dutch charter airline, and we were hired by the Dutch defense to fly in troops into the war in Yugoslavia. And so we flew to Split, and then we stayed there during the night, and we stayed in the same hotel as the officers, the military officers. So, and at the same time, we were bombarded by the mainstream television with all these horrific stories from Yugoslavia and what was happening over there, and these horrific stories of concentration camps and what more. There was not really the internet back then, so you didn't have social media, all this stuff that wasn't there yet. So we had to rely on the television and newspapers back then only, as only source of information. And I was flying there, and I stayed in these hotels, and they came up with a complete different perception and narrative of what was happening over there than what I saw on the television and what was being propagated in the Netherlands and in Europe, what was happening in Yugoslavia. So that was for me actually the first real realization on experiential level that this is completely in opposition with the reality on the ground. Because I talked with these Dutch officers, military officers, they said, "Oh, we don't know why we're here. That was the main thing. No clue why we're here, and we're fighting with the bad guys." That was the message. So yeah, that triggered me into looking into these things in the night, and it was in the beginning of the 90s, especially also in the function of these international criminal courts in The Hague, because I lived next to this international criminal court in The Hague, very close by actually, and all these processes over there with the Yugoslavia tribunals. That triggered in such a feelings of just injustice and betrayal. We've been betrayed as a people, because the so-called massacre of Srebrenica, that was one of the biggest things in this war in Yugoslavia, which was being used for bombing Yugoslavia. Appeared to be a complete falsification, this massacre. And this was a sort of trauma on the Dutch people, that we had been made responsible for this massacre in Srebrenica back then in 95, because we were protecting this enclave in Yugoslavia. And afterwards I realized that it was complete fake. It was a complete construction of this so-called massacre, which didn't happen, and was being used for other reasons. One of the reasons was to start this bombing campaign of 70 days of non-stop bombing of Serbia. One of these, the beauties of Europe, where all these minerals and the country, and it's a horrific war crime actually done based on complete lies. And Holland was a very prominent role, and had a very prominent role in this by going along with this. And International Criminal Court just next to my door, where people were being sentenced, innocent people were being sentenced or killed in the prison, drove me mad in a certain way. But yeah, this war was for me what was traumatic as well, of course, like all wars, especially with what you saw in these images, and then you have this guilt thing, or as the Dutch people. But yeah, it gave me a realization that it is completely fabricated. What we are seeing on the screens, which is still happening, of course.